everyone, and welcome back to the Plutonium Show. We're back from our 1-month hiatus, which we've spent in Japan.
Yes.
Those of you who follow us on other platforms would have known and seen the photos, so we had a wonderful time, didn't we?
It was incredible. Honestly, I could not say enough good things about Japan.
I agree. What did you love most about it?
You know, when you've been around the world enough and you've dealt with enough people, politeness goes a long way. And they are the most polite people in the entire world.
It's out of this world. I mean, the number of thank yous, the smiles, the bowing, which the bowing was very familiar to me because I have a black belt in karate. My father put my siblings and I at a very young age. So by age 12, I got my black belt, and there's a lot of bowing in karate and a lot of etiquette that I now see is integrated a lot in Japanese culture, which was amazing. So I'm currently training to get my Dan 2 because Dan 1 is first level of black belt. So you spend 5 years to get your black belt, and that was not fun because I practically went against my will. My father forced us. But I'm so grateful.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful. My father practically also forced me through law school, and I'm very grateful for that too. So Thank you, Dad. But yeah, and hopefully I aspire to train with Japanese senseis in Japan one day.
Man, that would be so cool.
That really would.
The experience doesn't get any more authentic than that. The only other thing you could do after that is become a samurai. That's like pretty much the next level.
I mean, except samurais no longer exist.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like that's the next level that anyway.
Samurai Pluto.
Yeah, exactly.
And have you seen me dressed as a geisha?
Oh, that
because
was so good.
It was sort of a working holiday. I'm going to be honest. I have my travel diary on my phone. I just showed Zach earlier. I was like, I practically worked almost every day of that 1 month. But I spent 2 weeks working on a video where I dressed up as a geisha from head to toe. You wouldn't even recognize me. So I'll link it in the description box and up in the corner, wherever the corner is, probably here. And do check it out because we delve into just geisha culture and dispelling very popular and long-standing myths that surround geisha culture. And I did it dressed as one of them. So it was a really cool experience, and it would be awesome if, you would watch it if you haven't seen it already.
Yeah.
So we're going to play a little bit of catch up because obviously we've been gone for a month, but that doesn't mean that I haven't been keeping track of everything that's been going on in the world of the corrupt and twisted world of Meghan and Harry while we were abroad. Unfortunately, I did keep tabs and I hinted at it in the various videos that I've been putting out, but I really wanted to hear your thoughts, Zach, on Meghan and Harry's involvement by way of their Orchwell Foundation with World Mental Health, was it week or month in New York? They were part of a World Mental Health Festival and participated in just a brief panel, which they're calling a summit to make it sound important. The irony of these two people being involved with and speaking on the negative impacts of social media and the online world on mental health. Go.
You mean the same woman who used Harry's dead mother as a way to entrap him psychologically? You mean the same woman who did that? Or the woman who made the palace staff in the royal family, what was it? They basically went through traumatizing experiences of all sorts, which, mind you, none of the other members of the royal family have that, and they've lived in the palace for a lot longer. But Meghan was there for what feels like a few weeks, and people were like, the turnover rate raised because she was that much of a nightmare. Or the same Harry who enables this woman to do all the things she does instead of maybe doing what a partner should do and go, hey, let's not try and burn every bridge we've ever crossed just for your own narcissism. Like,
it's not even just burning bridges. Let's not be monsters.
Exactly. And that's what it comes down to, right? It's like the devil talking about peace. There's this sort of juxtaposition that just doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. The last people on this planet that should be talking about mental health are these two. They should be locked up for mental health. Like, that's how severe their delusions get.
And it's not just the fact that they're talking about mental health, right? Because I completely agree with everything you said. But then there's that whole element of bullies themselves. Do I have to say allegedly? I mean, it has been alleged. They haven't sued anyone for alleging it so far. And we all know how litigation happy these two are.
Yep.
But there's the bullying allegations, which Harry pretty much all but admitted to in his book when he wrote in his book that at one point their staff were slumped over their desks crying, as though that were a normal everyday workplace thing. I mean, the fact that he even put it in the book shows you how completely delusional and out of touch he is to what a normal, healthy work environment is.
And that's the other thing too. When people talk about mental health, normally, you know, if one person talks to another person, or, you know, let's assume that people were on the panel that, you know, were not Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, normally they come from some sort of background that is not too unsimilar to other people, meaning that, okay, so, you know, they work, I work, they have a family, I have a family. There's this sort of camaraderie. So when we're talking about mental health, there's this, we're all kind of in this together, and it's how do you cope with the similar issues that I have to cope with as well. And with Prince Harry, Mr. Spoiled Brat, who's, you know, almost never worked a day in his life. I say almost, just to leave the little army spot there, which
The 10
again,
weeks.
the 10 weeks,
Yeah.
right? It just, it rings hollow. It's like a king talking about how to be a slave, you know? It's this, not that they're a king or we're slaves, but it's might as well be the same dynamic, because that's the way they see us. That's the way that they think. They think we're stupid. They think we're dumb. They think that we're the lesser than. Mm-hmm. And it just rings hollow. Like, what could Prince Harry, one of the most entitled people on the planet, have to tell me about mental health?
The answer is, by the way, nothing, because obviously I've listened to their segment.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. You know, and with what you said, with, you know, they're kind of trying to project this image of their, you know, God status amongst us plebs. It really comes across in Meghan's choice of clothing, which I normally don't like to talk about, but I do when I think that it's absolutely inappropriate or out of place. Yeah. For example, when she keeps going on to these, you know, she goes to the Harlem school where we now know they tried to impose a gagging clause to gag children.
Yep.
She went dressed in hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of clothing and jewelry, as we know. And she is so tone deaf when it comes to these events, because she went to this World Mental Health Day festival also dressed in an outfit that would be for more of, I don't know, something a lot more lighthearted for starters. And it's this projection of this image with all that jewelry and suits that cost more than the parents attending who have lost children to social media and the harms of the online environment. They've lost their children. There isn't even an attempt to be relatable, which is interesting, because early in her courtship with Harry, she uses that word. I don't mind that word. It's very traditional, but she ruins everything.
Exactly, right? Like, here's a mental health summit about, you know, people who have lost their children to social media, and there's Meghan Markle. Oh, now it's ruined.
Well, tell us in the comments the words that she's ruined for you, because I can't say authentic anymore. Archetypes, I guess. That's not for me, but that's yours. I can't say organic. I can't say lens, because she goes through the lens of. She just ruins so many things for me, and I'm trying not to let that get to me, but so yes, absolutely. She has this kind of, I am holier than thou, no matter what the event is, and it takes away from its credit, from her credibility.
It's crazy. She acts like she was born into a royal family.
Absolutely. You know, honestly, Harry is a lot more humble, even in his appearance, than she is. At least when he went to Harlem, he really looked very normal, apart from the microphone, because we all called it, right? In 2021 about Netflix. But at least he dressed the part.
And the Harlem thing is the perfect parallel to this, right? Rocking up to Harlem in jewels. when rocking up to a mental health summit when all you want to do is take advantage and abuse people.
It's what's really crazy, and this is a good segue, is how these people who run these events, and there was a really high-ranking government official by the name of Dr. Vivek Murthy, and he was sitting right next to them in his medals. And I'm just like, do you not know what these people represent? Do you not know what they have been not only accused of time and time again, but what there has been actual evidence of in their own productions, such as Netflix, her podcast, her Flopcast, and the book?
Why would he know anything about a nobody?
Well, the thing is, I mean, I see what you're saying, because you're right. They're really not world players as much as they try to be.
Exactly. So when these people come out of nowhere, it's like...
But I feel like these people, like Dr. Murthy, have an obligation to do, or get their staff, you know how it is with these higher ups, to do some basic background and go, I don't want to be seen with this person.
Well, that's just it, isn't it? It's that they're not even worth the background check, and then these people end up on stage with them and by association almost humiliated on behalf of them.
Yes.
By acquaintance.
Yes, which reminds me of Dr. Gabor Mate, who interviewed Harry, if you remember, back in March or something. And I called that video The Enabler. And that doctor recently came out now expressing his regrets over that interview and even being roped into it.
Yeah.
Because everyone said it was highly unethical. You were basically psychoanalyzing or having some kind of an monetized online therapy session. And he was apparently very uncomfortable with the fact that it was behind a paywall, because it was.
Yep.
And he expresses his regrets. I'm just like, I'm sorry. You're just sorry you got caught. You're just sorry you got called out.
You know what? I genuinely think so. We were having this conversation the other day about how they hire psychologists for advertisements to try and, you know, really get into our brains and sink that in. I mean, it even comes down to the music they'll put in it as well, which, you know, I learned at uni. It was like, well, this particular jingle's particularly catchy. And that's how low people who are meant to have some sort of, it's like doctors and how they're meant to have this thou shalt not harm anyone, right? Where it's like that, even if it was an enemy of war, right? Then they can't go and just refuse care to them just because they're on the other side of the fence, that sort of thing that we've heard before. Psychologists and psychiatrists and people of mental health should have the same thing. But then as soon as you put a paycheck in front of them, all of a sudden, they don't care. So, and that's what happened with this guy who interviewed Harry. That's what happens with these advertisements. It happens all the time. Psychologists rock up where the money is sometimes. And that's not to say there aren't good ones out there. But the fact that people will do it for money tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah, and that's true of every profession. I've dealt with really rank, like stinky, nasty lawyers. Honestly, I don't even know if they're lawyers, to be honest, because the letters they would write, it's like, do you even know the law?
Yeah.
Do you even have an understanding of at least Australian law? Because I'm sorry, what is this nonsense I'm reading? It's a joke. And never mind their ethics or lack thereof. So yeah, this is true of all professions, of course. We're not targeting psychologists. Unfortunately, there are just some bad people that would do anything for money. So yeah, now Dr. Vivek Murthy looks bad, and anyone else who associated with them looks bad. And it's just bad all around, because anyone who associates with these bullies, this woman who basically drove her father into having a stroke from all the stress that she put him under.
Yep.
This woman who talks about family, she has the audacity to talk about the importance of family in that very conference.
Exactly.
While she destroyed her own and her husband's.
Exactly.
It's despicable. And that's why sometimes I get messages from people going, why are people still happy to associate with them? Why aren't they canceled? And I made a video while I was in Japan called How to Cancel the Uncancelable. So go watch it, because it answers that question, by the way, at least from my perspective, obviously.
Yeah.
It's not an objectively correct answer. But in my opinion, they are canceled. And anytime we see them, it's because they've weaseled or paid their way onto that particular stage, not because they're actually wanted.
Yeah.
And in this mental health case, last thing I want to say on that is they did it because Prince William and Princess Catherine were also highlighting the importance of mental health practically in the same week, if not on the same day. Forgive me, I was on a trip. I don't remember exactly. but they were trying to outshine them, as they always do.
Yeah, I partially remember another situation where Meghan announced a pregnancy on the same day as something else happened, or was it Princess Eugene getting married?
Princess Eugenie's wedding.
Yeah.
That's when she announced her pregnancy. Yes.
That was the one. Yeah. Yeah, that feels like a long time ago.
Yeah. Her entire career is her trying to outshine the royal family, by the way. So it's not even, that was just the beginning. That was when we all got that first shock of, oh no, she did not.
And it's like real royals, people who are actually royal and act royal, don't need to outshine anyone.
Exactly.
They don't need to do these dirty tactics. It's like someone who knows how to fight doesn't need to go below the belt, so to speak.
Absolutely. Again, you're reminding me of dealings I've had with lawyers who play dirty, and I'm just like, I'm going to play by the book.
Exactly.
Because I can.
When the truth is on your side and you have the evidence, it's like you don't need to do the dirty lawyer tactics.
You don't need to fabricate stuff and threaten and everything I've experienced, by the way, which it happens, unfortunately, because, again, there are some disgusting people that we're sharing this planet with.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh. Next on the agenda is more recent than the Mental Health Festival, which is the Byline exposé about the truth behind Megxit. Now, Byline is not an unfamiliar name to me because I was very aware of their investigation into Dan Wooten. I'm sure you've all noticed that Dan has basically disappeared. It's not necessarily because of this expose, it's because of the whole sexist allegation with that feminist episode he had with his guest, Lawrence something. And I've been looking into it. One of my followers sent it to me and I was instantly hooked because they seem to have a lot of credible evidence against him in the sense that there were witnesses, there was a police investigation and all that. I don't know how far that's going to go. But now they seem to be Meghan and Harry's mouthpiece, which was concerning because I thought these were journalists that actually cared about the truth and wanted to expose the truth. It's interesting because Meghan and Harry said, what was it, beginning of this year, that they were done with the negativity.
Oh man, and let's be honest, not a single person bought that for a second. Anyone who knew anything about Meghan Markle is like, no. The only way you don't talk about drama and don't have negativity is if your mouth was sewn shut. Like, that's the only way you don't do it. Otherwise, she lives and breathes negativity.
Yeah, she can't help herself. And yes, you're right. I remember when the news came out, we scoffed.
Yep.
And lo and behold, this is, I think, officially a reattempt at, reigniting the smear campaign.
Absolutely.
Against the royals. Because I'm not going to go through the whole article because I really don't have time, unfortunately, but I will link it in the description box. And I'm sure you've heard other channels talk about it because that's how I found out about it, by watching other channels. And essentially they're saying that Megxit only happened, or rather Meghan and Harry were forced to seek commercial deals, such as Netflix and the failed Spotify and the book, because King Charles pushed them into it by withdrawing their funding and punishing them because they refused to remove the name of a palace aide, a palace staffer, from a legal case that they were filing against the Daily Mail. And regardless of what case it was, Harry and Meghan refused to remove the name of the aide because they're alleging that he's friends with Dan Wooten, and they had evidence about that. And they said that he's the source of breaking the news about Megxit because Dan Wooten broke the news.
Right.
And he maintained that a good journalist never reveals their sources, and so he never did. But to cut a long story short, the essence of it, the crux of it, is that King Charles did this to Meghan and Harry. They were happy to still be a part of the family, or at least have some kind of an agreement where, they can be half in, half out, and they wouldn't have to seek these commercial dealings. But King Charles withdrew the funding.
The way that this article's framing it, obviously, based on the language you've been using, is that how dare King Charles give consequences to Meghan's actions?
Well, I wonder whether this allegation is even true, because my understanding is King Charles continued to support Meghan and Harry for that first year of Megxit in 2020. And then when the review period was over, which the Queen was so patient and polite to even offer to such an ungrateful pair, when that review period ended, everything else ended with it. What did they expect? We've talked about this in the podcast before, like 2 years ago now, which is when you quit a job, you can't expect to keep getting the perks. You're not going to keep getting a salary. You're not going to get your benefits.
But I'm Meghan Markle. No, that means nothing. You being Meghan Markle means that you should get nothing, because everything you take, you smear and destroy. So, of all people in the world, she should not be getting any benefits from the royal family in any way, shape, or form. And the fact that the Queen and Charles were lenient in even the slightest, the fact that King Charles can still be quite lenient, because let's be fair, he could do more to shut them down, right? We all wonder why he doesn't do more.
Like removing their titles.
Exactly. So the fact that they haven't had their titles removed, she should be counting her lucky stars. Yet she is so entitled and so up herself that she genuinely thinks she deserves everything for nothing.
Absolutely. And here, I'm reading bullet points from the article. It says specifically, when the aide's name was not removed from the legal letters, the Sussexes were cut adrift financially and left unable to protect themselves despite having a security threat level equal to the monarch.
Shut the hell up. All credibility for this journalist and this publication out the window, gone. Shut the hell up. They are not equal to the monarch. Unlike the royal family, people don't want anything to do with Harry and Meghan. They just find themselves at events by chance for people who couldn't be bothered to make their people do research and figure out who the hell these troublemakers are. And then they end up on stage with them, and that's literally how they get anywhere. Or people that Meghan sweet talks, because I guess no one, can see through her except the people who aren't event organizers somehow. And it just, no, people don't want anything to do with them. No one wants to touch them. No one wants to harm them. They want them to go away, stay locked away, and leave everyone alone.
I think even if they did have some kind of a security threat back in the day when they were popular, when they were still royals, they were very well liked. There was no credible threat against their safety at the time, as far as I'm aware. And I mean, they never alleged that they were under any threat
Not until the funding started disappearing.
Exactly. Then suddenly she's sitting there on Netflix and Oprah going, oh my God, they're not protecting us. Of course there is a threat, especially since Prince Harry is the monarch's son. But again, it wasn't equal. And look, let's play devil's advocate. Let's play it was equal. You quit. You should have thought about that before you quit.
You know who gets monarch protection? People who work for the monarch. Not people who don't do anything. Not people who sit in their ass and do the complete opposite. If you're working at a company and you start smearing that company on your own social media, if that company finds out and fires you, you deserve it.
Exactly. So I don't know what they want. They literally want their cake. They want to have their cake and eat it too.
Absolutely. It is the highest entitlement. Sorry, what were you going to say?
No, keep going.
No, that's it. That's all I want to say. Okay. It's the height of entitlement.
Well, I was going to say they weren't children. They were middle-aged adults at the time of Megxit. I mean, Harry was a bit younger, but Meghan was definitely a middle-aged, very experienced working woman, as she would love to have us all remember, every single moment she gets.
Well, it was nice to see my brain. I rolled my eyes so hard.
But, sorry, my brother's voice came... What brain? my brother's joke, not mine. And he says it to me, not Zach.
That's fair. No, that's fair. Hey, I left it open. Yeah.
I couldn't help it. It's like ingrained in me. So, I forgot what I was saying.
Me too. Damn it. I was too busy laughing at the joke.
Wait, what was I saying? So she was a very experienced working woman who knows the consequences of quitting your job. So they're acting all shocked Pikachu face when after a year in 2021, what a coincidence that that's also when they happened to hold the Oprah interview.
Yeah.
What a coincidence. Finances pulled, security pulled, because you quit and you refused to come back after a 12-month grace period where you were still protected, and you're shocked.
I will contest one point of what you just said. when you call them adults,
Biologically,
not mentally, because you know who doesn't understand the value of a job? Children.
Children, yeah.
You know who doesn't understand the value of anything? Children.
Well, there are some mature kids who live in strife.
Absolutely.
So we're not talking about them.
But your average
kid,
child,
privileged in a first world country.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what they act like. They act like they can do whatever they want. I mean, they're already the bully in the playground, aren't they?
Yeah.
Except then they keep, getting on detention and keep getting excluded from other things. I mean, I will be surprised if they end up at other things that aren't the Invictus Games more than once. I mean, will I be surprised though?
What do you mean?
I mean, remember that award ceremony with the car chase in New York, right?
Yeah.
I would be very surprised if she ends up at it again.
Okay. If she pays for another award.
Well, exactly, right?
Well, she'll do it.
Actually, she's paying for it. I
mean, she'll do it.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, her sponsors are paying for it.
Yeah, who knows? It goes on to say the royal household had thought the threat of exposure would force Harry and Meghan to return to the UK, where their profile could be controlled, preventing them from eclipsing the future king.
Who?
You have to know who sourced this. Anyone who has been awake and switched on since Megxit will know that this is almost verbatim what Prince Harry and Meghan have alleged in the Oprah interview.
All right. So I want to know what it takes for a journalist to get a job at a publication these days, because it looks like they're picking them out of middle school. Because
but this is Meghan's. They're just regurgitating Meghan's words. It's not the first time it's happened. Any publication that is pro Meghan and Harry, anything, People Magazine, Us Weekly, The Cut, they are regurgitating what Meghan has written or at least approved.
And that's what I'm saying. It's that if I'm a journalist and someone puts something before me and says, I want you to publish this under your name, does no one care about their dignity or their morality or their honor or their ethics or anything that makes a good human being a good human being? Do they literally go, well, you know what, that money looks good, I'm not even going to double check this? Because here's the thing, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see through Meghan's game.
Absolutely.
So if everyone knows, right, which at this point everyone does, then how can you publish something that's a blatant lie?
Absolutely. And it's despicable when you think about what King Charles has done for them. He was so accommodating to her in particular. He walked her down the aisle when her father couldn't make it. He was very affectionate towards her, which she admitted in her Netflix reality show that King Charles really took to her, back when he was prince. Why? But this is what they do. This is what these types do to nice people.
That's just it. And this is why she deserves nothing, because she had the opportunity of a lifetime, and this is what she's done, and this is what she keeps doing. This is what you get for not cutting out Meghan before she even got entrapped. I mean, surely, is there no psychological analysis before you let someone marry into the royal family, maybe to protect Harry, who happens to be the stunted growth
unfortunately
of a child? It's just, there's so many layers to it, and yet someone can post this and just let it be there. And when things are on the internet, they don't go away.
And they do this knowing the royal family can't respond.
Yeah.
And this is, again, I'm sure our audience doesn't need to be told this. They all know. They're all veterans. This is completely done on purpose by Meghan and Harry. This is a continuation of the smear campaign that is never going to end. Because as people who have been and probably still are, we're just unaware of it, at the receiving end of such smear campaigns from such a sick and deluded monster,
yep,
we know that they don't stop. Even when
Absolutely.
You've moved on, even when you want nothing to do with them, you do everything to block them out of your life, they won't stop.
Even when you bring the law into it.
They won't stop. And this is what Meghan and Harry are doing, which is why I feel like you and I always have such a almost personal stake in this, because we know what it's like.
Yeah.
It ends off by saying it drove a wedge through the royal family and set in train events leading to Prince Harry's book Spare, a string of high-profile commercial media deals, and ongoing bad blood in the British monarchy.
The only wedge that's in the royal family is Meghan. Meghan is the wedge in everyone's family.
Yep.
Meghan is the wedge in everything. There are people who associate with Meghan and people who don't. She is the dividing line. If you're a publication and you want to report something, do you support or do you not support Meghan? I don't normally like to black and white things because that's a very control thing. That's a very, shall I say, shallow thing to do. Red versus blue, black and white. But Meghan is black and white now. If you associate with Meghan in any way, shape or form, your credibility is gone.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you come out and apologize, just like the doctor did, then it's still like, yeah, you apologized? How late?
Yep.
Why did you end up in this situation in the first place?
Exactly. And I'm sick and tired of these powerful, rich people pretending they don't have the time to do their due diligence. If lowly nobodies like the rest of us can do it without getting paid for it, then they can do it.
I mean, isn't that something they teach you in school to do basic research?
Right.
I mean,
and university, yeah.
Right. Like, isn't that just like a thing you do? It's not like you have to go to a library anymore. The internet is right there. Do these people literally not know how to Google?
But why do that when there are dollar signs in your eyes?
Exactly.
Speaking of smear campaign, Omid Scobie, the couple's mouthpiece that, who are now, and they're now pretending they don't know each other. They couldn't tell each other from a bar of soap. Harry in the trial under oath goes, I've heard of him. You've heard of him. After, and he said this after the appeal with Meghan and the Daily Associated Newspapers revealed emails provided by Jason Knopf of them basically colluding and, collaborating and exchanging dot points to write Finding Freedom, the first book. Harry lied about this again in court.
Who doesn't understand what under oath is? Children. And this was exactly what I was going to say.
I wouldn't insult children. Children are actually quite honest.
Right?
Adults are the liars.
Right? It's the rotten children as well.
I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, the rotten children are the ones that never grow up.
I mean, yeah, but I honestly wouldn't insult children by comparing them to these despicable things.
But that's exactly what I was going to say is the evidence to prove that those two are colluding is overwhelming, and you just listed it right there. It's there for everyone to see. It's on the internet,
and Harry still says, "Yeah, I know of him." I mean, it's sickening. It's actually sickening that someone is that much of a stranger to morals, to morality, and truth, and they keep talking about the importance of truth.
Their truth, not the truth.
Yep,
their truth.
So, Endgame is Omid Scobie's follow-up book, which will be released late November from what I can see. And get a load of this synopsis. I mean, the smear campaign, which was meant to end, remember? But of course, if it's from Omid Scobie, because Meghan and Harry operate like toddlers, they think, if someone else writes it for us, like Byline, Byline Times, whatever they're called, or Omid Scobie, no one will trace it back to us. Even though that's exactly what happened in Finding Freedom. It was traced right back to Meghan and Harry.
I can't use, I can't find the words that aren't straight to derogatory comments to explain what sort of people they would be, but think words similar to stupid.
Just a little bit more
severe.
Explicit.
Yes.
So here's the synopsis. Endgame, the explosive book from longtime royal journalist Omid Scobie and author of the international blockbuster Finding Freedom, which again, perjury, it's basically synonymous with perjury to me, is a penetrating investigation into the current state of the British monarchy. An unpopular king. King Charles is unpopular now, people. Did you know?
Omid Scobie said it, so it must be true.
And, after Meghan and Harry's popularity has been literally at an all-time low for 3 years in a row or 2 years in a row, it's King Charles who's unpopular. Don't get that wrong.
Yeah.
A power-hungry heir to the throne. Prince William. Prince William, who runs in Central Park in New York without, a stream of bodyguards around him. Prince William, humble father that he is,
Prince William, who actually is a working royal.
Prince William, who is a dignified human being who loves his brother. I mean, I don't know if he still loves him, to be honest. It's sometimes even with family, it gets to a point where you're past the point of no return.
Right. I mean, when someone abuses you enough, you have to draw the line somewhere. I do wonder if he's crossed that line with William.
I feel like he has. A queen willing to go to dangerous lengths to preserve her image. Camilla? Queen Camilla.
Hold on a second here. No. I want to be queen, Meghan, going to dangerous lengths to preserve her image.
Absolutely.
That's self-report.
This entire thing is a projection, but let me just finish it. And a prince forced to start a new life after being betrayed by his own family.
Oh, I know this one. Betrayed by his own family. Meghan's his family, and she has betrayed him several times over. She has dragged him, his name, his reputation, his mental stability. She's dragged everything through the mud for her own personal gain. The only family that has screwed over Harry at this point is Meghan.
Absolutely. This entire synopsis, and I will not be purchasing this book. I did not purchase Finding Freedom, didn't read it. You know, I barely even read excerpts. I don't need to. It's just going to be word vomit regurgitated from Meghan and Harry. But this entire synopsis, as you said, is every single adjective used here applies directly to Meghan and Harry. Unpopular, power hungry, willing to go to dangerous lengths to preserve her image. If that is not Meghan Markle in a nutshell, I'm out.
It's like, how can you not? I mean, you must. It's another level of delusion for someone to put this synopsis out like this when the truth is right there.
Yep.
And there are so many people who know the truth. I mean, she's not unpopular because she wore a bad dress one day. She's unpopular because she's a rotten human being who's shown no redeeming qualities, and the entire world has caught on. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they at first, you know, well, actually, ironically, the thing that she thought would propel her popularity, the Oprah interview, I'm sitting next to Oprah, so I must be legit, was what started this train wreck.
Yep, it destroyed her.
But it's just, again, mind blown that anyone could post this.
It's Omid Scobie. Have you looked at him?
But this is just, you know what? I actually don't know what his face looks like.
He's plastic.
I'm sure I've seen something before, but I've probably erased it to save myself from the trauma.
And I don't want to be mean. I'm not, demeaning or judging anyone who's done plastic surgery. But this man, I mean, sometimes when you take it this far, you wonder what's going on inside. That's all I'm saying. It's just my opinion. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it comes back to the point we made where Meghan Markle and Prince Harry think everyone else is below them. They think we're stupid. They think we're dumb. They think that with such a low intelligence, they can outsmart the entire world.
We've dealt with those. And more importantly, Jodi Arias thought she was as clever as Einstein, remember?
And that's just it, right? And this is proof of that, is that we will put out whatever nonsense and the people will eat it up. We're going to a different restaurant. We're out of here. We are not touching this meal. Thank you very much.
I think most of the world has been out of that restaurant for 2 years now.
Exactly.
And they're still serving up the same rotten food.
Exactly. So only a fool or someone who's been living under a rock or someone who's, I mean, why would anyone who wants nothing to do with Meghan Markle pick up this book? But you would have to be taking advantage of the 1% of the 1% of people who are that out of the loop just to sell this book.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how well it does, if it does well at all, because we all know that Harry's book did surprisingly well. But however, Harry is a prince at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of gravitas that comes with that. Who's Omid Scobie?
Exactly. And on top of that, I think a lot of people, it was a morbid curiosity. Unfortunately, people don't understand that morbid curiosity still generates sales. So that's, you know, them buying the book led to people saying, oh, we've generated incredible sales. And they will use that. So hypothetically, if this book sold well, then they'll be like, see, we're telling the truth. Everyone bought it. That makes it the truth, right? No.
So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But unfortunately, that's all we have time for today.
Yep.
Hope you all enjoyed our first episode back from the amazing country of Japan. I know we have Japanese members in the audience. And yeah, your country and your culture and everything about you is incredible. Honestly, I truly, genuinely mean that. I've wanted to go to Japan my entire life. Since I was a little girl watching anime and lots of studio. I learned at Studio Ghibli. I learned that in Japan because I would say, oh, we're going to Studio Ghibli museum. And then they go like, oh, Ghibli? And I'm like, oh, it's Ghibli. So anywho, yeah. We had an amazing time. And
we did.
Had a good time making this episode. Hope you have a good time watching it.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, and we'll see you next time.
See you later.
Bye-bye.